You know what the loudest sound in the world is? It's not a gunshot. It's not a scream. It's the steady, rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor when you're the one strapped to the bed. It's the sound of your own time running out. Beep, beep, beep. It cuts through everything. It cuts through the sterile air conditioning. It cuts through the fog of the pre-op sedatives they'd started pumping into my veins. And it definitely cut through the lies my fiancée was whispering to her lawyer in the corner of the room. I was lying there, staring at the ceiling tiles. I counted them. 12 across. 8 down. A standard suspended grid. Cheap, but effective. That's the architect in me. Even when you're about to have your chest cracked open for a valve replacement, you still look at the structure. You still look for the flaws. And the biggest flaw in the room wasn't in my heart. It was standing right next to the bed, holding a Mont Blanc pen and a stack of legal documents. Vanessa. She looked perfect, of course. She always did. Even a hospital room at 6 a.m., she was runway ready. Hair pulled back in that severe, elegant bun. A black cashmere shawl draped over her shoulders, the one I bought her in Milan last year. She smelled like expensive vanilla and cold ambition. She wasn't crying. Her eyes weren't red. Her hands weren't shaking. If anything, she looked impatient, like she was waiting for an Uber that was 3 minutes late. She kept tapping the edge of the document against her thigh. Tap, tap, tap. It was a counter-rhythm to my heart monitor. Andrew, she said. Her voice was soft, practiced. It was the voice she used when she wanted me to buy a new property or sign off on a renovation budget. Baby, look at me. We're running out of time. I turned my head. It felt heavy, like it was filled with lead. The doctor said, 5 minutes, I rasped. My mouth was dry. The medication makes you feel detached, like you're watching a movie of yourself. But my mind was sharp, sharper than it had been in months. Exactly, she said, stepping closer. She put a hand on my chest. Her palm was cool. That's why we need to handle this now. You don't want to go into surgery worrying about the portfolio, do you? You need to focus on healing. Let me carry the burden. Just sign the amendment. Andrew, it transfers the management rights to me, just until you're back on your feet. She smiled. It was a terrifying smile because it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were dead. They were scanning my face, looking for compliance, looking for the weakness she'd been cultivating in me for the last 6 weeks. Behind her, the man she'd introduced as a mobile notary shifted his weight. He wasn't a notary. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. He was sweating. He checked his watch. Mr. Sterling, the man said, the anesthesia team is down the hall. We need a signature now if you want this filed before the procedure. I looked at the document. The text was blurring slightly, but I saw the headers. Irrevocable power of attorney. Asset liquidation authority. Prenuptial nullification clause. They weren't asking me to sign a get-well card. They were asking me to sign my own financial death warrant. Vanessa leaned in, her lips brushing my ear. Do it for us, Andrew. Do it so I can protect your legacy. Legacy? That's a funny word. People like Vanessa think a legacy is money. They think it's the beach house in Malibu or the brownstone in Back Bay. They don't understand that a legacy is about character. It's about what you build and what you refuse to let crumble. I closed my eyes for a second. I let the silence hang there, heavy and suffocating. I let them think they had won. I let them think the drugs had won. Then I opened my eyes. I didn't look at the paper. I looked right at her. I'm not signing a will, Vanessa, I said. My voice wasn't rasping anymore. It was cold. It was the voice I used when I fired a contractor for cutting corners on a foundation. She froze. The tapping stopped. What? Andrew, don't be delirious. I said I'm not signing a will. I repeated, pushing myself up on my elbows, ignoring the pull of the 4-line. And I'm not signing a trust amendment. I'm signing a termination. The room went deadly silent. The only sound was the monitor. Beep, beep, beep. I survived the surgery. But the engagement? That died right there in the pre-op room. But to understand why I did it, to understand why I waited until the knife was literally at my throat to destroy her, you have to understand the game we were playing. You have to understand that for the last 6 months, I wasn't just a sick old man. I was a trap. Let's rewind. Let's go back to before the heart trouble, before the lawyers, back when I thought I had found the final piece of my life's design. I'm an architect by trade. I've spent 40 years building skylines. I understand load-bearing walls. I understand stress fractures. I understand that if the foundation is rotten, it doesn't matter how beautiful the facade is, the house will fall. I met Vanessa 3 years ago. I was 55, she was 29. I know what you're thinking. Classic cliché. The wealthy, aging professional, and the young, vibrant beauty. And you're right. It is a cliché. But clichés exist for a reason, because they're seductive. I was lonely. My wife passed away 10 years ago. My daughter, Sarah, was grown and living in London with her own family. I had a 6,000 square foot house in the hills that echoed when I walked through it. I had money, I had status, but I had no one to share the view with. Then came Vanessa. She was an interior designer. I put that in quotes because in 3 years, I never saw her actually design anything for a client. She had a portfolio, sure, but it looked suspiciously like stock photos. But she had the talk. She knew the difference between mid-century modern and brutalism. She knew how to walk into a room and command it. She filled the empty spaces in my life. She filled the house with flowers, with music, with dinner parties. She made me feel relevant again. She made me feel young. For the first 2 years, it was perfect. The golden period. She was attentive. She was affectionate. She signed the prenup without reading it. "I don't care about your money, Andrew," she'd said, tossing the document onto the coffee table. "I have my own career. I just want you." That was the masterstroke. That specific moment of nonchalance. It disarmed me. I'm a man who looks for angles, but she showed me a smooth surface. I lower my guard. I let her into the inner circle. I gave her a supplementary credit card for household expenses. I let her redecorate the guest wing. I let her drive the Aston Martin on weekends. I thought I was building a partnership. I didn't realize I was just being appraised. The crack started to show about 6 months ago. Subtly at first. It started with this suggestions. "Andrew, this house is too big for us. The market is peaking. Maybe we should sell and move the liquidity into a joint trust? Something we can both manage. Andrew, your financial advisor is so old-fashioned. My friend Gavin gets 20% returns. You should talk to him. Andrew, why does Sarah need to be the executor of the estate? She's in London. She doesn't understand our life here." I brushed it off. I'm a stubborn man. I keep my finances separate. I told her, "The structure is solid, Vanessa. We don't need to renovate the finances." She would pout, then smile, then drop it. Or so I thought. Then came the diagnosis. Aortic stenosis. Severe calcification of the valve. My heart, the doctor told me, was working overtime just to keep the lights on. It was a mechanical failure. It needed a mechanical fix. Open heart surgery. That was the catalyst. The day I came home with the news, the dynamic shifted. Instantly. I was sitting on the sofa, still processing the fact that my chest was going to be sawed open. I was scared. I admit that. I wanted comfort. I wanted my fiancée to hold my hand and tell me we'd get through it. Vanessa walked in. I told her the news. She didn't hug me. She didn't cry. She stopped in the middle of the living room, a glass of wine in her hand. She stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. "Surgery?" she asked. "Is it dangerous?" "There's always a risk," I said. "Mortality rate is low, but at my age, with the blood pressure issues..." She took a sip of wine. I saw her eyes flick to the side, scanning the room, scanning the art on the walls, scanning the furniture. It was a look of assessment. "Inventory. And recovery?" she asked. "How long until you're competent again?" That word. Competent. Not healthy. Not well. Competent. 6 weeks, maybe 8, I said. "I'll be out of commission for a while." She nodded slowly. "We need to prepare," she said. "I know," I said. "I've got the hospital bag list right here." "No, Andrew," she said, her voice sharpening. "We need to prepare the paperwork. If you're incapacitated, if something happens on the table, the state freezes everything. Sarah is in London. Who pays the mortgage? Who pays the staff? Who manages the investments? The trust handles that automatically, Vanessa. That's why I have it. The trust you wrote 10 years ago," she snapped. "Before me. Before us." She walked over and sat next to me. But she didn't lean into me. She sat on the edge of the cushion, her back straight. "We need to update it," she said. "Just to be safe. We need to make sure I have the authority to make medical decisions. And financial ones. God forbid, if you need long-term care, I need to be able to access the funds to get you the best. I don't want to have to beg your daughter for money to save your life. It sounded reasonable. On the surface, it sounded like love. But the architect in me saw the hairline fracture. She was moving too fast. She wasn't worried about my life. She was worried about her access. But I was tired. I was sick. And part of me, the weak, fearful part, wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe she was just being practical. So I agreed to a meeting. Fine, I said. I'll call my lawyer on Monday. No, she said quickly. Too quickly. Your lawyer is slow. He's old, Andrew. We don't have time for his bureaucracy. I'll call Gavin. He can come here. He could do a house call. We could get it drafted this weekend. Gavin, the friend with the 20% returns. I don't know Gavin, I said. He's the best, she insisted. He's discreet. And he's fast. Please, Andrew, do it for my peace of mind. I can't sleep thinking about you lying there helpless and me being locked out of the accounts. She squeezed my hand. It was a performance. I knew it, somewhere deep down, but I nodded. Okay, bring him over. That was the mistake. Or maybe it was the best decision I ever made. Because bringing Gavin into my house was what finally exposed the rot in the foundation. The doorbell rang at 8 p.m. on a Saturday. That alone should have been a red flag. Real lawyers don't do house calls on Saturday nights unless someone is in handcuffs or a body needs to be moved. Vanessa let him in. I heard the murmur of voices in the foyer. Low, urgent, familiar. Too familiar. When I walked into the living room, I didn't get up. I was sitting in my leather armchair, a blanket over my legs. I played the part. I let my shoulders slump a little more than necessary. I let my hand tremble slightly when I reached for my water glass. Andrew, Vanessa said, breathless. This is Gavin. He drove all the way from a city to help us. Gavin was slick. That's the only word for it. He was wearing a sharkskin suit that was a shade too blue, and his watch was too big for his wrist. He looked like the kind of guy who sells you a timeshare in Florida while sweating through his shirt. Mr. Sterling, Gavin said, extending a hand. His grip was moist. Pleasure to finally meet the legend. I've admired your buildings for years, especially the Metro Tower. Bold use of cantilever. He was buttering me up. Standard tactic. Let's skip the architecture review, I said, keeping my voice weak. I'm tired, Gavin. Vanessa says we have a crisis. Not a crisis, Gavin said, sitting down opposite me without being asked. He opened his briefcase. It made a sharp snap. A vulnerability. Vanessa tells me your current estate plan is dated. Pre-2015 tax laws. My lawyers are top tier, I said. Top tier for 2010, Gavin countered, pulling out a thick stack of documents. But with the new federal guidelines on medical incapacity, you exposed Andrew. If you go under anesthesia next week and complications arise, your assets freeze. The probate courts will eat 40% of your liquid capital before Vanessa sees a dime for your care. He leaned forward. Do you want the government to decide what kind of recovery facility you go to? Or do you want Vanessa to decide? It was a good pitch. Fear-based, urgent, plausible enough to scare a layman. But I wasn't a layman. I knew estate law almost as well as I knew building codes. I knew that my current trust was ironclad. So what's the solution? I asked. A durable power of attorney, Gavin said, sliding a document across the coffee table. And a living trust amendment. It gives Vanessa immediate signatory power. She can bypass probate, access the operational accounts, and ensure your bills are paid without a judge's permission. I picked up the document. I didn't need glasses to see the clauses. Clause 7, unrestricted gifting power. Clause 9, sale of real property without grantor consent. This wasn't a safety net. This was a master key. This gives you full control, I said, looking at Vanessa. While I'm still alive. Only so I can help you, baby, she said. She was sitting on the arm of Gavin's chair, not mine. I don't want to have to ask a trustee for permission to buy your medication. I want to take care of you. It's standard, Gavin added quickly. Boilerplate for high net worth individuals in medical crisis. I looked at them, really looked at them. They were vibrating with anticipation. It was like watching two vultures circling a dying animal, waiting for it to stop twitching. I need to read it, I said. I'm not signing anything tonight. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Andrew, Vanessa said, her voice tight. The surgery is Tuesday. Monday is a holiday. We need to notarize this now. I can't read legalese when I'm on these meds. I lied. Leave it. I'll review it tomorrow. If it looks good, I'll sign it before the operation. Gavin looked at Vanessa. A quick panic glance. Mr. Sterling, Gavin pressed. I strongly advise against delay. Every hour you're exposed is a risk. I said no. I put a little steel in my voice. Just enough to remind them who owned the house. Leave the papers. Get out. Vanessa stood up. She looked furious. For a second, I thought she was going to scream. But she caught herself. She forced a smile. Okay, she said. Okay, honey, you rest. Gavin, let's get him space. We can go over the details in the kitchen. They left the papers on the table. They walked out of the room, but they didn't leave the house. I waited. I sat in that chair for 5 minutes, listening to the silence of the house. I knew they were in the kitchen. It was on the other side of the foyer, down a long hallway, far enough that they thought they were safe. But I'm an architect. I know acoustics. I designed this house. I know that the HVAC vents in the kitchen connect directly to the return vent in the master bedroom. It's a flaw I meant to fix years ago, but never got around to. Sound travels. I stood up. My legs were shaky, but my resolve wasn't. I walked quietly to the bedroom. I didn't turn on the lights. I grabbed my phone. I opened the voice memo app. I set it to record. I placed the phone on the nightstand, right next to the vent. Then I lay down on the bed, pulled the duvet up to my chin, and closed my eyes. I didn't have to wait long. The door to the bedroom opened a crack. A beam of light from the hallway sliced across the floor. Is he asleep? Gavin's voice. A whisper. He took his beta blockers an hour ago, Vanessa whispered back. He's out cold. He's useless. They stepped into the room. They weren't there to check on me. They were there to talk freely. He didn't sign, Gavin hissed. We're exposed, Van. If he dies on the table without signing that POA, you get nothing. The daughter gets it all. He'll sign, Vanessa said. Her voice was cold, colder than I'd ever heard it. He's scared. He's weak. I'll work on him all weekend. I'll cry. I'll tell him I'm terrified of being homeless. He always caves when I cry. We need that signature, Gavin said. I've already leveraged the loan for the villa in St. Bart's. If we don't liquidate his bond portfolio by Wednesday, I'm in the hole for 200 grand. Don't worry, she said. Once he's under anesthesia, he's not waking up for hours. Maybe days. We'll have the electronic transfer done before he opens his eyes. By the time he's coherent enough to check his bank balance, the money will be in the Cayman Trust. And the house. I'm listing it next week, she said. I hate this place. It smells like old man. I lay there, breathing shallowly, listening to the woman I was going to marry plot my financial murder. They stood there for another minute. I heard the rustle of fabric. A kiss. A wet, sloppy sound that made my stomach turn. Let's go, she said. Let him sleep. He needs his strength so he can sign his life away. They left. The door clicked shut. I opened my eyes in the dark. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the lamp against the wall. I felt a strange, icy calm wash over me. It was the clarity of a demolition expert looking at a condemned building. I reached over and stopped the recording. 4:12, 4 minutes and 12 seconds of evidence. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Elder abuse. Infidelity. I had the kill switch. I could have called the police right then. I could have thrown them out. But that wasn't enough. They wanted to steal my future? Fine. I would let them. I would let them dig the hole so deep they'd never climb out. The next morning, I woke up and put on my best performance. I walked into the kitchen where Vanessa was making espresso. I'm sorry about last night, I said, looking downtrodden. I was just overwhelmed. She turned, her face lighting up with fake concern. Oh, honey, it's okay. I know you're stressed. I thought about what you said. I lied. You're right. I need to protect you. I'll sign the papers. Really? Her eyes went wide. Oh, Andrew. Thank you. But not today, I added. I want to do it at the hospital. Right before I go in. It feels ceremonial, like a promise that I'm coming back. She hesitated. She wanted the signature now. but she couldn't push too hard. Okay, she said slowly. Okay, at the hospital. In the meantime, I said, why don't you get a head start? If we're going to manage the estate together, you should start making some decisions. That villa you liked? Put a deposit down. Use your card. I'll reimburse you from the trust as soon as the POA is active. She smiled. A greedy, predatory smile. Are you sure? Absolutely, I said. Live a little, Vanessa. We're celebrating our future. For the next 3 days, I watched her go on a rampage. She thought she had a winning lottery ticket in her pocket. She put a non-refundable deposit on a rental in the French Riviera. She leased a Porsche Cayenne because the Aston Martin is too hard to drive. She even booked a first-class flight for Gavin to join her for legal consultations after my surgery. She spent nearly $80,000 on credit. Money she didn't have. Money she thought I was about to give her. I let her do it. I encouraged it. Every swipe of her card was another nail in her coffin. Then came Tuesday morning. The hospital. The pre-op room. The trap was set. All I had to do was spring it. The air in the pre-op room was thick enough to choke on. The monitor kept that steady, rhythmic beat, beep, 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 pacing the tension like a metronome. Vanessa pushed the clipboard closer to my chest. Here, honey. Just sign by the X. It's standard. The notary needs to witness it before the doctors come back. I looked at the pen. A Mont Blanc. My Mont Blanc. She'd taken it from my desk. I looked at Gavin. He was sweating profusely now, wiping his forehead with a silk handkerchief. He knew the timeline. He knew that once the anesthesia hit, the window of opportunity for them to plunder my accounts would open wide, but only if they had this signature. I reached out and took the pen. Vanessa let out a breath she'd been holding. A small, triumphant exhale. She thought it was over. She thought the old man was finally yielding. I held the pen over the paper. Then, I looked up at the notary. He was a young guy, clearly hired just for the stamp. He looked uncomfortable. You're a sworn officer of the court, correct? I asked him. My voice wasn't weak anymore. It was the voice that had commanded boardrooms for 3 decades. The notary blinked. Yes, sir. I am. Good, I said. I want you to witness this carefully. I didn't sign the power of attorney. I didn't sign the trust amendment. I reached under the thin hospital sheet, pulled out a manila envelope I'd hidden there earlier, and slapped it onto the clipboard, covering their documents. Vanessa frowned. Andrew, what is that? This, I said, is a declaration of prenuptial breach and termination. The room went dead silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop. What? Vanessa whispered. Her face went pale, the makeup standing out like a mask. I'm not signing a will, Vanessa, I said, locking eyes with her. I'm signing a termination order, based on Clause 4, Section B of our prenuptial agreement. Infidelity and conspiratorial fraud. Gavin stepped forward, his sharp smile gone. Now wait a minute, Mr. Sterling. You're under heavy medication. You're not in a state to. I haven't taken the sedative yet, Gavin. I cut him off. I spit it out into the tissue when the nurse wasn't looking. I am fully lucid, and I am fully aware that you and my fiancé are sleeping together. Vanessa gasped. Andrew, that's paranoid. That's the sickness talking. Is it? I picked up my phone from the bedside table. I tapped the screen. The recording from Saturday night blasted through the small speaker, clear as day. If he dies on the table, you get nothing. The daughter gets it all. I'll work on him. He always caves when I cry. Once he's under anesthesia, we'll have the electronic transfer done. The color drained from Gavin's face so fast I thought he might faint. Vanessa stood there, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I stopped the recording. That, I said, pointing to the phone, is admissible evidence of conspiracy to commit grand larceny and elder abuse. And since you, Gavin, are a licensed attorney, it's also grounds for immediate disbarment. I looked at the notary. You hear that, son? You want to be part of this? Or do you want to notarize my signature on this termination order? The notary looked terrified. He backed away from Gavin. I just witnessed signatures, sir. I don't know anything about a fraud. Smart kid, I said. I signed my document with a flourish. There. Done. Vanessa, effective immediately, you are evicted from my residence. Your access to my accounts has been revoked. The supplementary credit cards have been canceled as of, let's see, 2 minutes ago. Vanessa lunged for the clipboard. You can't do this. I have rights. I'm your fiancé. You're an investment that didn't pay off, I said coldly. I pressed the call button on the bed rail. The door swung open instantly. It wasn't a nurse. It was the head of hospital security, a large man named Davis whom I'd hired privately the day before. Behind him were 2 uniformed officers. Mr. Sterling? Davis asked. Yes, I said, handing him the clipboard. These 2 individuals are trespassing and harassing a pre-op patient. Please remove them. And Davis? Make sure the lady returns my keys. Andrew, Vanessa screamed as the officers moved in. She grabbed the bed rail, her nails digging into the plastic. Andrew, please. The villa. The car. I put everything on my credit. I can't pay for it. You told me to. You promised. I looked at her one last time. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt the cold, hard satisfaction of a balance sheet finally zeroing out. I didn't promise anything, Vanessa, I said. I just gave you the rope. You're the one who tied the knot. They dragged her out. She was screaming about her credit score as they pulled her down the hallway. Gavin didn't scream. He just walked out with his head down, already texting his own lawyer. The door closed. The silence returned. Beep, beep, beep. The surgeon walked in a moment later, looking confused by the commotion. Mr. Sterling? Is everything all right? Is your heart rate elevated? I lay back against the pillow. I felt lighter than I had in years. No, doctor, I said. My heart is just fine. In fact, I think the blockage is already gone. The surgery took 6 hours. They cracked my chest, stopped my heart, replaced the valve, and wired me back together. It was brutal. It was painful, but it was nothing compared to the surgery I'd performed on my life. I woke up in the ICU a day later. My daughter, Sarah, was there. She'd flown in from London the moment I called her. The real call, not the one Vanessa tried to block. She was holding my hand. They're gone, Dad, she whispered. Security confirmed it. The locks at the house have been changed. I squeezed her hand. I couldn't speak because of the tube in my throat, but I smiled. Recovery was slow. But every day as I walked laps around the hospital wing, getting stronger, I got updates on the fallout. And oh, it was spectacular. Vanessa was ruined. Remember the spending spree I'd encouraged? This celebration of our future? She had charged nearly $85,000 to her personal credit cards, expecting my power of attorney to clear the balance within days. The deposit on the St. Bart's villa? Non-refundable. The lease on the Porsche? A 3-year contract with a massive early termination fee. The first-class tickets? Also non-refundable. When the bills came due, she had nothing. I had fired her from her consulting position at my firm the same morning I went into surgery. With the prenup voided for fraud, she wasn't entitled to a single penny of severance. She tried to sue, of course. She found some ambulance chaser to file a claim for promissory estoppel, claiming I had verbally promised to pay her debts. My lawyer, my real lawyer, the old one she hated, simply played the recording of her conspiring to rob me while I was unconscious. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice and ordered her to pay my legal fees. Last I heard, Vanessa was living in a studio apartment in the valley, dodging calls from collections agencies and selling her designer handbags on eBay just to make rent. As for Gavin, I sent the recording to the State Bar Association. It turns out, conspiring to liquidate a client's assets while they are incapacitated is frowned upon. He was disbarred 6 months later. He's now working as a consultant for a timeshare company in Nevada. A fitting end for a man who sold cheap dreams. I'm back in my house now. It's quiet again, but it's a good quiet. It's the quiet of a structure that has been reinforced. I sit on the terrace, looking out at the city I helped build, and I think about value. Vanessa thought my value was in my bank account. She thought she could extract it like oil from the ground. She didn't understand that true wealth isn't about what you have. It's about what you can protect. She mistook my silence for weakness. She mistook my patience for surrender. And that was her fatal error. In business and in life, the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one shouting orders. It isn't the one waving the contract. The most dangerous person is the one who sits quietly, listens to the lies, and waits for the perfect moment to close the deal. She wanted a golden parachute. I gave her an anchor, and as I watched the sun go down over the hills, I take a sip of wine, just one, doctor's orders, and I toast to the silence. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't a war. It's just letting the trash take itself out. This is Dante. And remember, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And if they try to dig your grave, make sure you're the one holding the shovel. Stay sharp, stay silent, and never sign on the dotted line until you've read the fine print.